employment, jobs, working. These are all very, very scary words. Now, even though I personally don't have to experience these truly terrifying things, for some reason, many people choose, not forced, but choose to experience these things. So that got me wondering, how many people openly chose to do that? And instead of going outside, I decided to see in Elden Ring how many people are actually employed. So that is what we are doing today. We will be going along to the main settlements and along the main roads to see how many people are employed and how many people are unemployed. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure to stick around, and if you enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe. And anyways, let's just get into it. And I am probably going to do the other zones of the Lands Between to figure out how much of the entire Lands Between is actually employed. But for today, we are just looking at Limgrave. And as in Limgrave, I am also including the Weeping Peninsula. So let's just start on the main road and reach the Gatefront Ruins. So as we begin down the road, we can already point out some soldiers who are standing guard here. Now, obviously, you don't really even need to know the lore that these guys are employed. They are most likely either slaves or getting paid for their work. And as we reach this encampment, I think we can already guess where this is going. I am pretty sure every single person here is actually employed. This is a soldier camp. So most likely there will be soldiers here. Now here is another example of who we aren't counting. See these dogs? They are technically probably these soldiers, dogs or wolves, whatever you want to call them. They are, trained to serve the soldiers. However, they cannot really think for themselves. They're not very intelligent. So this is one of the cases where, yes, these are the enemies. These are technically soldiers of sorts, but they can't think for themselves. So they are not employed. They are not unemployed. They are just a creature. So with that being said, let's continue down this main road. Now on the way, we can see a few people off to the side. Whoever I see, I'm going to count as employed. I'm not going to really, go off the main road. There are, some stragglers, but this is not a precise count. This is more of a percentage-wise. And here we actually come across something interesting, which are these random, people. You could say these are zombies. However, given that they are fully clothed, they still have facial features, they still have hair. This is sort of that, we're just looking at them. We are looking to see if we think they are, zombies, or if they are more like humans. And then also, not to go into the lore too much, we're kind of just doing this visually. We can kind of look and guess to see if these are employed people or unemployed people. Well, given that they are indeed walking on the main road and not really doing anything. This guy's holding a torch, the other guy ran off, and this guy's, pretty frightened. They're not even really attacking back. I'm pretty sure that these guys are unemployed. They don't seem to really be doing anything. And yeah, given their sort of like peasant look, they're not armed. I am pretty sure that these guys are unemployed. But now we come to something very interesting. See, these people are, they're digging. They seem to be doing something. However, I don't think they're really getting paid for this. They don't really seem to be soldiers as well. They look the same as those other guys who were just walking. Either they are digging for food, or they are slaves, I don't know. But I am counting them all as unemployed. But now here's something interesting. See, these guys are wearing the same exact clothes as the other people we have, counted as peasants. However, this guy is armed. He has a sword. He's traveling with this big group. So is he a soldier? Like, what is he actually doing? And there are multiple of these people. They are actively chasing me down. That guy's carrying a banner. That kind of makes me believe that these guys are either like volunteers or I don't really know. Maybe slaves? Who knows? Maybe they're more like militia, levies. But nonetheless, I do think in this case, all of these people are quite employed. Now, as we continue down this road, we see the same exact thing. More people digging for food or enslaved, and more people and more soldiers just walking around, traveling probably up to Stormveil. Now, there is one thing to keep in mind as well, which is Limgrave seems to be more of a military state rather than a pedestrian or civilian zone. For instance, we have Stormveil Castle. This is the main point of interest in Limgrave. And then we have camps. We have gatefront rooms. We have waypoint rooms. We have a fort and many other places. However, the one thing we don't really have is villages. Really, the only two is the Dragon-Burnt Ruins, which might be a village. It might be another military point. And the Summonwater Village. It has village in the name, so that is for sure a village. However, those are really the only two places. The rest of this zone is either uninhabited or just a military zone. So I am guessing that most of the people here are going to be employed. But we gotta make sure and check. So we come across this bridge, and basically every single person here is indeed employed. But now the interesting thing about Weeping Peninsula is this place is sort of under siege by the local inhabitants. But those local inhabitants, are they really humanoid? As we can see here, they are sort of like humans, but also a lot like savages. So we have some investigating to do. Now, one thing I do notice about these creatures, not just from this point, but from playing the game for countless hours, is that we never see them not attack you, right? We never see a peaceful version of them. Not to mention that they are never wearing clothes. They seem to have no sense of like villages or really anything, as well as no real communication. So with that all said, yes, I believe they are just savages, so they're not employed or unemployed. And here we are at the main point of interest in Weeping Peninsula, which is Castle Morn. Now in Castle Morn, there is only employed soldiers, so I'm not even going to check in there, and I'm just going to add roughly 30 soldiers to the counter. Now, just another sort of point of interest, we also have these demi-humans. And these are basically just, well, monkeys. However, these guys are a little bit different than those other, I don't know the name of the other flying ones. But basically, these guys are a little bit different. They have actual clothing. They seem to be relatively intelligent. I mean, not intelligent enough to move out of the way from a ballista shooting at you. But, they have some brains. They also have shields, which is definitely a plus side. So I'm actually going to mark these guys as employed, since they are also soldiers. Now, those guys are pretty much on the line. They are, sort of savages, but I think they have enough intelligence to, you know, be a little bit humanoid. But let's go back to the mainland now that we are done with the Weeping Peninsula and continue on the other paths that we missed. And if you are, you know, mad or disappointed that I'm not going over all of the map, just remember how big Elden Ring is, and that this sort of concept is much better suited for small little towns. You know, like maybe just the capital. That would make sense. But the entire map, not even the entire map, but just Limgrave alone, that's still pretty massive. Like, there are a lot of little corners here. So I'm doing the best I can. Now, as we travel down this road, we see the usual. We see soldiers, we see the peasants. Nothing too out of the ordinary. But then we reach the demi-humans that we have seen before. And this is another instance where I think these guys are smart enough to be considered humanoids. See, they seem to have ambushed a supply wagon. And the reason why they are doing this is another case of why I think they are intelligent enough. See, just down the road is a fort that they are actually besieging. And they are literally doing besieging tactics to, well, besiege. As in, destroy the supply line so that the castle cannot continue, you know, being alive. They're actually playing smart. And since these are all soldiers, I will count them all as employed. But again, another supply line seems to be ambushed by these demi-humans. They were hiding in the trees as well. Like, these guys are actually kind of smart. Maybe even smarter than the, you know, sort of brain-dead soldiers that we see. Now, sadly, I did already do this quest with this character, so the siege is currently not going on, but you can see the bodies everywhere. And if you played this game, you'll probably remember that there were countless soldiers here fighting. Well, honestly, these demi-humans have already proven that they're smart enough, so I really don't need to prove it anymore. And since all the residents here were soldiers, I'm just gonna add a bunch to the list of employed. So here's where things are gonna start getting a little bit crazy. And I kind of feel bad for the unemployed. For as we will start to see, most of these people are gonna be rather employed. Now, I'm not gonna go directly into Stormveil Castle yet, for there is another path that we can go on first. But let's just say, it ain't looking good for the unemployed. Here is just another instance of way too many people employed. We got another soldier camp. And yes, sadly, my boy Alexander is employed. He's technically a mercenary. But, again, nothing too out of the ordinary. We have a mad pumpkin. Honestly, I'm not going to count this guy as either employed or unemployed. Actually, you know what? I think he is employed. He's employed and he's mad about it. You know, I mean, this is a pretty average reaction to getting your job application accepted. I feel ya, buddy. But finally, we made it to a village. I mean, there's gotta be, like, stay-at-home moms here, right? Those are unemployed. But alas, no, they've all been wiped out. There was too much unemployment here that they must have all starved. Like, the one time we get a village, yeah, there's just no one home. I mean, there are a few dogs. I guess that's good. But no one else. And then up this road is Caelid. So, this is the end of the line. Which means it is time for Stormveil Castle. And currently, there are 180 employed and only 37 unemployed. Those are way too low numbers. But sadly, I don't think, personally, we're gonna find a single unemployed person in all of Stormveil. Like, I am hoping just, I don't know, one or two, potentially. will be unemployed? Well, I don't know. It ain't feeling good. I feel like this ratio is gonna get too out of hand. Well, we have reached the end of the castle, and we have not found a single unemployed person here. Currently, the count is 276 are employed, and only 37 are unemployed. Is all hope gone? Could there not be a single unemployed in this castle? Could it be? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the answer to this terrible question. And that is children. See, there are jars. Many jars, actually. And you know, the thing about jars is I don't think they're employed. Now, the reason why I think that is we see these jars all over the lands between. We also have Iron Fist Alexander. He is a jar. He doesn't work for anyone, only for himself. However, these random jars here, they seem to be doing relatively nothing. They are most likely hidden from the residents in this castle. I don't know how they got here. They're probably not supposed to be here. But here they are. They are simply chilling. I also think they are smart enough to be counted as humanoid. I mean, they look absolutely nothing like humans, other than, you know, their limbs. And yet, we have Alexander, who can speak to us. So with that, I do think they are humanoid and also unemployed. Meaning, in this castle of roughly 70 soldiers, there are only 8 who are unemployed. So with that, the final count for all of Limgrave is 276 are employed and only 45 are unemployed. However, as you know, I only went to the main castles and the roads, meaning that there are various other places where there could be more humanoids. That is why we do things called percentage. Right? This is a not fully accurate count of people. So instead, what is more accurate is to take it by percentage. Meaning that 86% of all of Limgrave is employed and only 14% is unemployed. Truly, it is a bad day for the jobless, maidenless individuals. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see the other zones, then make sure to like and subscribe and comment that you do want me to continue this. And I hope to see you next time.